All right, today we're cracking open the digital toolkit that cybersecurity pros use all over the world. We are talking about Kali Linux, which is, the go-to platform for pretty much everything from ethical hacking to digital forensics. So let's just jump right in. So have you ever really wondered what's inside a professional hacker's toolkit? I mean, what are they actually using? Well, today we're going to take a peek inside that digital bag of tricks. We'll explore the command line tools that really separate the beginners from the pros. Okay. First things first, we gotta set the stage. We're gonna look at what Kali Linux is and why it's pretty much the gold standard for anyone who's serious about cybersecurity. So what is Kali Linux? Well, think of it like this. It's a super specialized operating system. It's built on Debian, but it comes preloaded with hundreds of tools all designed for one thing, security testing. It's basically the digital laboratory where ethical hackers get to practice their craft, doing everything from finding hosts on a network to figuring out all their vulnerabilities. Now, before we get into the tools themselves, just a quick heads up. You know technology's always evolving, and command line tools are no different. You might still see some of the older commands like ifconfig or netstat in old tutorials online. But for this, we're going to focus on their modern, more powerful replacements, tools like IP and SS. It's all about using the right tool for the job, right? All right, let's start this ethical hacker's journey right at the beginning. Phase 1 is all about reconnaissance. Seriously, think of it like a detective casing the joint, gathering clues before making any big moves. And the whole point here, the entire goal, is to gather as much information as you can about your target network, but you have to do it quietly. We're trying to figure out which machines are even online and maybe what they're running, all without tripping any alarms. This initial intel, it's absolutely crucial. And that brings us to our first batch of tools. You've got ping, which is perfect for asking, hey, is this one machine even turned on? Then you have its big brother, fping, which asks the same question but to a whole bunch of machines at once. Then there's dig. This lets you query the internet's phone book, the DNS, to get info on a target. And finally, arbscan helps you see who else is on your local network, like the same Wi-Fi you're on. Each tool gives us another piece of the puzzle. And this is where a tool like fping really shines. I mean, instead of pinging one IP address, then another, this single command just sweeps an entire network to see who's alive. It's kind of like quickly checking every single door in a super long hallway to see which ones are unlocked. Way more efficient. Okay, so we've found the machines that are live. What's the next logical step? Well, we need to figure out how we can actually interact with them. And this brings us to the scanning phase. This is where we start checking those doors to see if they're open. Now, when it comes to scanning, there is one name that just stands above all the rest: Nmap. People often describe it as the most powerful TCP/IP scanning tool out there. And they're not wrong. It's an absolutely iconic utility, and it's fundamental to any kind of network security work. So here's how an analyst really uses Nmap. See, you don't just run one scan and call it a day. You escalate. You might start off with a really stealthy SYN scan, just to quietly see what ports are open. Then you can run a version detection scan to figure out, okay, what software is actually running on those ports. You could even try to identify the operating system itself. And then, when you're ready, you can launch an aggressive scan that just does all of that and a whole lot more. So far, everything we've done has been about actively poking and prodding the network. Let's switch gears completely. Now it's time to just be a quiet observer, to just listen in on the conversations that are already happening on the network. This is called packet analysis. But before we get to the tools for that, we have to understand the most basic conversation on a network, the TCP three-way handshake. Honestly, it's as simple as this. The client sends a packet basically saying, hey, can we talk? The server replies, yep, let's talk. And the client sends one more packet to say, okay, cool, the conversation has started. That's it. And our tools are designed to capture and break down this exact exchange. So how do we actually do this eavesdropping? Well, we've got two main options. On one hand, you've got Wireshark. It gives you this beautiful visual interface that's perfect for doing a really deep analysis of a conversation. On the other hand, you have TCP dump. It's a super lean command line tool, it's incredibly fast, and it's ideal for grabbing raw data on, say, a remote server where you don't have a screen or a graphical interface. All right, for our last tool, we're gonna look at a true legend. People call this the Swiss Army knife for hackers, and for good reason. It is incredibly versatile. Let's talk about Netcat. So why a Swiss Army knife? Well, because it does so much. You can use it for simple stuff like banner grabbing, which is just a fancy way of asking a service, hey, who are you? So you can see its software version. You can use it to transfer files back and forth. You can even use it as a simple port scanner. But its most powerful use? Creating what are called reverse shells. This is where you trick a target machine into connecting back to you, giving you remote access to its command line. And how does that reverse shell actually work? Well, it often starts with a simple command, just like this one, nc-lvp4444. Basically turns your own machine into a listener on port 444. It just sits there, waiting, ready to catch an incoming connection from a machine that's been compromised. And when it does, boom, the attacker has a command prompt on their target. Okay, let's pull all of this together now. See how each tool we've talked about fits so neatly into a specific phase of a security assessment? You start with reconnaissance, finding your targets with things like fping and dig. Then you move on to scanning, where you're finding those open doors with the beast that is Nmap. When you get to the exploitation phase, Netcut is your best friend for getting access. And the whole time, for defense and monitoring, you're analyzing all the traffic with tools like Wireshark or TCP dump. It's a really logical progression from start to finish. And so what? Why does this all matter to you? Well, because mastering this toolkit isn't just some fun academic exercise. It is a direct path to success in the field. These are the exact tools and concepts you are going to need to know to pass major industry certifications. We're talking Network Plus, Security Plus, and even the Certified Ethical Hacker exam. So there you have it. You've just seen the core of the Kali Linux network arsenal. From reconnaissance all the way to exploitation, these tools are the absolute building blocks of a career in cybersecurity. So the only question left is, which one are you going to master first?